Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. I'm really excited today. We have not really a therapist, but a coach in the space of, helping others. So I'm really excited to talk with her and have you guys meet her. Rachelle, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and just talk about how you went from being maybe, not a therapist, but that maybe was in one place and how you've sort of taken a journey to be in all these other places. And let's just take it from there and talk about what you're doing and all the cool stuff that's going on in your life.
So my name is Rachelle Muschamp. I am originally from the Netherlands, but at the moment I'm living in France. And I have moved a bit from the Netherlands, then I went to Malta, where I stayed for 10 years. And it was in Malta that I started to study under Gabor Mate, compassion inquiry, and actually became a coach doing the work I'm doing right now.
Wow.
And last year I traveled to California, and then I went to Africa and came back to Malta, and then eventually came back to France. So this is where I am right now.
Oh my gosh, what a journey. That's
Loved,
exciting.
loved it.
So I'm embarrassed to say I don't even really know where Malta is. Where is that
I
in
had to look it up the first time,
uh,
and I am from Europe. It's a little island under Sicily.
Oh, amazing. What part of the Netherlands did you come from? Because I was just talking with another guest recently and they were from the Netherlands and that we were talking about like what psychotherapy is and how it's defined and that it was more, at least for her experience, it was more like academic training and getting a specialty and then going with it from there. So I'm just curious, like what part of the Netherlands and how did you decide to do that training? And then what led you to Malta and, all of that. I just would love to hear that part of the journey.
When I was living in the Netherlands, I was born in England, but I
Okay.
moved to the Netherlands when I was 7, so I'm pretty Dutch. And I
Yeah.
had a very different background. So I joined the army when I was 18. Spent 10 years in the army, did some tours, went through a whole range of anxiety, panic attacks. I used a bit of drugs when I was younger.
Hmm.
And then I met someone and I worked in offices. I had companies. I became a DJ. I became a chef. I've done like everything. Really
Wow.
not in touch with myself very much. And then with my ex, we decided to move to Malta because my sister lived there. And so I came in Malta still not knowing what I wanted to do. Then I studied a master's in entrepreneurship, just randomly, you know.
I love that.
Yes, and then 7 years ago, I met a meditation teacher in Malta from Bali, and I
Wow.
started meditating, and then I started to realize that I was very disconnected from myself. That's when I decided to really start to do some really serious self work. So I did all the therapies. I had, the regular with the psychotherapist, EMDR, holotropic breath work, everything. And then I did a master class with Gabor Mate. It blew my mind because it was so effective, so straight to the point.
Wow.
So I did more work, and then I decided to start studying compassion inquiry, which I did. And I had an IFS therapist. So then I started to study IFS, internal family systems, continued the mindfulness and meditation practice. And so I've combined that all into what I do today. So I don't
Oh my
really,
gosh.
I know that it's very academic in the Netherlands, but I don't have direct experience with being a coach in the Netherlands.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. So it all happened after you went to Malta,
Yes, yes,
met
yes.
the meditation expert, and really was like, okay, this is my path now. So I guess
Yes.
you found your path after DJing and army and all that stuff. This coaching thing is feeling like the right fit now.
Yes, yes. My whole life, I felt like I was supposed to help people in one way or the other. So I became a chef. So I started cooking for people, and then I was DJing and making music. But I was very, very disconnected from myself and always in a fight flight without any awareness, right? So when I found compassion inquiry, it went so fast, straight to the point, that I started to realize how disconnected I was. And the mindfulness
Yeah.
and meditation practice next to that really embodies someone to actually feel what's going on, right?
So
Yes.
what is the training process like? Is that like I'm thinking of, American therapists that might be listening to this and they're like, you know what? I just want to switch. I would love to go into this like Gabor Mate training and just come out with a coach and be able to do this. What was that process like? How long did it take to get, I guess, is it a certification or just a
Yes.
training?
You can do a year-long training, and then you get a certification that you've done the training, so you're compassion inquiry informed. And then you can do a
Nice.
mentorship, which is another 6 months. And then you can actually go to become a practitioner, which I didn't do at the end. I did
Uh-huh.
18 months. So But it's the same, I think, when you do somatic experiencing or internal family systems. It's online. I did bi-weekly. It was very intense. You have to be in therapy. It's a lot of self-work. Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's
Yes.
amazing. So it
Mm.
was all virtual. You could do it from anywhere that you were
Yeah.
living at the time.
With anyone, and it's really a beautiful community as well. They have many master classes, once a month with Gabor. So it's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
So once you finish it to completion and you feel like you're ready to take it out into the world, how did you go about building your business around it? I'm so curious to hear about the coaching business and how how do you get clients and
Of
how do
course. Yeah.
you work with time zones? Do you work with people just in France where you are right now? Like how do you manage all that?
So when I started to study, I had a marketing job online,
Hmm.
remote. So I was a digital nomad in that sense, right? Just working online, building websites, website optimization, stuff like that. When I
Yeah.
started to study, after 6 months, I started to take clients pro bono, right? And
Nice.
that for 6 months. And then I started to ask for the lowest rate in Malta, and I would see clients face to face. And then from there, it just became word of mouth. And now I work with clients from America, China, I have one, Malta, so all of you, France. But as long as they speak English or Dutch, because obviously my
Yeah.
Chinese is that good.
How do they find you generally through your website, or is there like a directory for his program that there are specific practitioners for the compassionate program that you went through that people find you through the directory? I just wonder, like people always ask me about that, like marketing. How do I find clients now that I've got this specialty? So I'm always curious how it works for people.
It's beautiful that you bring this up because this has been a hot topic in my life right now. Because, it's like, am I going to
Oh,
post 5 times a day? Am I going to like engage on social media that much? Or so all of my clients in the last 2 years came through word of mouth, and then they will be redirected to my website. Because on the website, there's a discovery call. I always offer a free discovery call, right? I find it's quite important to do so.
hmm,
I am on social media, but I'm not really believing in the power of it unless I'm constantly posting. And it's really just not what I want to do because then
hmm,
I feel like I'm chasing clients for money and it goes against what I want to do, right? I just want to help people.
right.
Obviously, we have to make money. We have to make money because, and that's also fair enough because it's an exchange. But to constantly post selfies or, all that is very, very tiring and not my thing. And I think I speak with more and more coaches and therapists and retreat organizers as well, because we started to organize retreats now, and
Mm,
it's just like, do you hire someone to do it? So I've been talking to people who like can help you for 6 months and they ask an X amount of money, which is a gamble, right?
yeah.
Because you don't know if you're going to make that money. You don't know
Hmm.
if you have clients, and I want my clients to get better. So I don't want them to stay, like if they have to, but I don't want them to stay for 6, 7 months. I want them to be, up and
Yeah.
running within the shortest time possible. So it's
Yeah.
a tricky thing. So I have newsletters. I write. I love writing. I'm speaking to you right now.
Yeah. Podcasts, right? That's a great way to get yourself out there for sure.
Yes, but if it were up to me, I wouldn't even be on social media. But because we're organizing retreats now and workshops, I mean, nobody knows who I am. Why would they come to a retreat with me, right? That's the
Right.
thing. Yeah.
That's the hard part. It's like you have to establish some sort of like social proof or credibility for people to trust you enough to want to come work with you in a lot of cases.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you publish a book with, it's on my list to do, but you have to find the time as well. And to go
Yeah.
back to your question about is there a directory for people with compassion inquiry? There is for the practitioners, but not most of the people who study don't actually really become a practitioner. So it's a very limited. But there are many, many good coaches out there who have studied compassion inquiry and are not on the website. Strictly because I'm not a therapist. Obviously, I haven't been to university for 6 years, so I cannot register on a directory of therapists. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Right. Gotcha. Hmm.
yeah.
Is there any kind of like, I don't know how it works in Europe, like regulatory boards around certifications like this or liability
It's
concerns for
tricky.
you that you have to get protection for, or is that not really a thing?
I am a member of a liability. I forgot the name now, so it's the end of the day. But I am a member of
Yeah.
it. But we don't. That's a tricky thing. I'm a coach, but
Hmm.
everybody can become a coach, right?
Yeah.
You just do like a short course on, I don't know, for 20 years, and you can call yourself a life coach, which is very, very
Totally.
scary. It's very, very scary. I'm not really a fan of the name coach anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
Everyone is a coach nowadays, and it's
Right.
not really regulated. No, and I am on LinkedIn as well, and I've had the I've read the discussions with therapists, psychotherapists, who actually went to school very very long, and there are really good coaches out there, but there are
Mhm.
also those that are not really like therapists as well. Sorry, but it's no, it's not regulated at all. But with the compassion inquiry, you can do the year-long training, but if you want to do the mentorship, you have to be part of a liability. Like, oh, I forgot the name. I am part of it, So, but so people can complain about my work. I can get sued. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just I'm always curious about that because that's such a big deal in the United States. You have to have liability insurance. You have to be following our licensing regulations. And I know it's different for coaches. And even in the US, a lot of therapists will just become coaches because it's easier. It's not as stressful.
I read a
Uh,
lot of performance on your group and everything. Like people on Facebook. Traveling, and Can I still see my clients? How am I going to do that if I move states? Yeah, as a coach, you don't have that challenge.
yeah. Yeah. I think it's very, attractive to a lot of people, especially with licensure regulations and insurance required. There's just so many, and I'm sure you see it on the traveling therapist Facebook group. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, all these hoops you have to
Yeah.
jump through. And that ties back to the social media presence too. It's like you said, I mean, everybody's a coach. Anybody could be a coach and just put up a website. So it's like
You-
you kind of want that trail at least of some social media or some consistency over time to show that you've been around a while, and your
Yes. Yeah.
credentials and all of that stuff. So it really is a dilemma because I don't
Yes.
love social media either. I'd love to talk a little bit about like what was it like living in Malta? What was there a visa process? I know it's different if you're already from Europe and you're living in another European country, but I'm just curious for people that might be in your situation. How did that work for you to go to Malta? Can you just go there and like
If you live in the EU, you can just freely travel between countries and move between. Yeah,
oh,
I mean, it's like you guys moving between states, right?
yeah, okay.
Wise for
That
you
makes
guys,
sense.
then. Yeah, so I could just pack my bags, sold everything, arrived in Malta. That was it. It's an English-speaking
Wow.
country. It is a beautiful country. It's very small, very overpopulated at the moment, but very very beautiful country. Yes.
I love that. You were there for 10 years and then were you just ready? You just were like, "Okay, I want to do France now." Is that what caused you to
Uh,
change or did something happen?
this place in France, I've been coming for 40 years since I was a very very small girl, and my mother lives
Oh.
there. And
Oh.
yes, and so I was living in Malta for 10 years, and then I just, life, you get one of those big shifts in life, and communities change, and friends change, and it was just a bit done for me. And there's a lack of nature. Like, I really
Mm.
love forests and trees. So the last few years, I would already leave to France for a few weeks and then come back to Malta, and then, go up and down, because my French is not really good. That's quite a challenge, to be honest.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah. So last year I decided, because I rounded up all my studies. I did an extra study with compassion inquiry for suicidal ideation.
Wow.
And I decided to just come to France and see. And I had no plan. And suddenly I was on my mom's sofa, 43 years old.
Amazing. Well, oh well.
I had no idea what I was going to do. I was still seeing clients. And then I decided to go meet one of my best friends who lives in California, with whom I've worked on the compassion inquiry training as an intern, which was amazing because we never met each other in person.
Oh, wow.
So I spent some time there with different kind of coaches, and and I learned a lot there. And then I went to Africa to do a vision quest, and met another bunch of amazing people, different cultures, different nature. Like, that was actually my holiday for 12 days. And then I came
Wow.
back to France and decided to go back to Malta. But then I think because of the shifts and the traveling, it was just done. And I just wanted trees. I wasn't part of a community anymore. All my friends live abroad. My sister was going to leave as well. So I
Mm.
decided to come back to France. And so now I'm here in a country where I speak very little French.
That's so tough. Yeah. So is
Yes.
it I would imagine there's parts of France that it's a lot more English speaking maybe, or is it do you find that in all of France that it's just
France is a country where they used to synchronize the TV. So you would see movies with French speaking over it. So it's only the last two generations that actually speak better French, but still they don't learn English, sorry, better English. They don't learn English at school. Like in the
Oh,
Netherlands,
interesting.
we get taught English, French, German, and so no, they don't. The younger ones speak better English, and I think here I'm living in the middle of nowhere, so
Oh,
it's very
okay.
with 250 people, and the younger ones they
Wow.
speak a bit of English, but they also you need to speak French, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You need
out,
to. Yeah.
yeah,
Gotcha. It's
yeah.
like full immersion. I guess you get pretty good if you have to speak it.
I was living in the forest next to an elderly couple, and they would invite me for lunch, and they don't speak English at all. And I spent
Wow.
like 2 hours around the table with a glass of wine, with my notebook, trying to speak French. It was like hilarious. We have to, still in Ray. I mean, still in Ray. Yeah. Yes. But I also lived in
Yeah.
Malta. I learned Maltese. Never. That was
Mm.
very, very difficult because everyone spoke English.
Yeah. Is that the language in Malta? Maltese? It's not
Yeah.
Italian or
It's a mix of Italian and Arab. So, but very, very difficult for me. Very, very difficult. Yeah. I've never
interesting.
learned English. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting. So you're in France right now. When you went to California, how long did you come to California for? And I'm just curious, was there like a visa involved, or were you just like
Oh,
visiting for a while and then you
just
left? Okay,
visiting. Just visiting. Yes. No, I was just visiting
gotcha.
for 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. It was my first experience with the homeland. When you fly in and they have all the questions, why are you here? And then they actually wanted to see my website, proof what kind of work I was doing. They wanted to see. It was hilarious.
wow, really?
That we see on TV actually happened.
They usually ask me just like where were you, and it's usually like I just say vacation. But yeah, I've always been curious about what the other people
Hmm.
experience that are coming in from other countries. Yeah, and how much they drill down on you basically when you come in through Homeland Security. Yeah.
Through my website.
That's amazing. Gosh. Were they like, "Oh, okay, thanks."
You need therapy?
Really? Here's my
Yes.
card. Yeah, that's
Yes.
great. Oh my gosh. Do you see clients in the United States?
Yes, I do. I see clients in the United States, yes. So it's
Nice,
50
nice.
50, I think, right now. Yeah. I think that's the beauty of this work when you can see people from all over the world, all
Mhm.
these different cultures, different backgrounds, but at the core,
Yeah.
it's all the same. The trauma and pain, it's all the same at the core. So it doesn't matter. We all want to be loved and seen, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's very fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. Yes.
So how do you manage the time zones? If you're in France and you've got clients in the United States and other parts of the world, do you have a system? Everybody always wants to know the time zone system.
My latest that I see people is at 7 o'clock in the evening. So
Okay.
even now you can see it's 6:30 and it's already pitch black outside. So I will
Yeah.
see clients in the States, and for them it will be like 9 o'clock in the morning. That's the latest. Like, yeah. I have one
Gotcha.
client gets up every morning at 7, to see me.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So I plan my days in. I have discovery calls planned. People can book on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is clients. But I have to book in that separate as well. You need a bit of time
Gotcha.
to put stuff in between there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
If you work with people from different time zones and you want client that you don't fully book yourself, because that's what I had in the beginning, right? And suddenly I was working
Yeah.
from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening, and no time in between, and that's tricky. It's not something I would advise.
Yes, that's been my experience too. Like in the beginning, it was like I just want to try to accommodate everybody, but then I figured out I had to do it on my schedule wherever I was because it's just
Yeah,
too exhausting. Like
it
you
is.
said, like maybe you see somebody at 8 a.m. your time, but then you've got to wait till 8 p.m. for somebody else that's in another place, and it's just like your whole day's ruined. At least for
Yes,
me
yes.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Hmm.
And also I am strict, like I can't see more than 4 clients a day deliberately because I need time in between to get back into my own, energy. And like I know people who see 6, 7, 8 clients a day. And
Yeah.
I can't. I can't.
Hmm.
I can't be present, and attune to the client then at all.
Yeah, no, it's so smart because I mean it's exhausting, and then at least in my experience, it sounds like you kind of stay put in places, but we move like every week or so. And it's just
Mm.
like you have to get used to a new home and a new like internet
No,
setup and then it's just it's dysregulating. It can be really tough.
self care is very, very important. I think many coaches, clients, we of therapists, coaches and therapists, and like everyone in the helping sector, we forget the self care part if you're not careful. there's a reason why we do this work, right? We really
Yeah.
want to be that person that's helping. So you need time to integrate and center yourself. Otherwise, you're going to come with an agenda, right? I need to
Yeah.
help this. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Right. And then just our own burnout and trying to manage all that stuff. That's I've got a new course coming out, the portable practice method, and I put a whole section in there just about lifestyle management and how important it is. And like you're doing, like realizing that, okay, 4 clients is good for me and I need like an hour between because I need to get re-regulated or back in myself. And, but then also figuring out like price points around that stuff, like how much am I gonna charge if this is the amount of
Oh,
clients I can see every week? And,
yeah.
I don't know if you struggle with that or if you have any advice around that process for you, because I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Well, one of my tricky things is that in every country there's a different salary, right? So what someone
Oh.
certain country can afford, in other countries they absolutely cannot. That
Yeah.
was very tricky, difficult. So in Malta you have an X amount that you can charge. In the Netherlands you have an X amount. In the States, I
Oh.
work with sliding scales uh,
Mm.
to help to make sure that everyone can have the therapy. But that's I found that very tricky. This is also I have no prices on my website. This is why I do discovery calls, so people can talk. I always offer packages and sliding scales for people. But that's for me. I found very very tricky. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That does sound very tricky. At least for me, I know that they're pretty much going to be in the United States or whatever. So that's interesting. So you would go into a discovery call with that in mind. Like, okay, I know this person is sitting in France and they probably make around this amount of money. And this is normally what people could pay for my services in France, kind of thing.
Yes. So, well, I don't go into necessarily into discovery call for that,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I know in Malta you would ask an X amount for therapy for therapists. So I know that that is the X amount. But then there's always still a sliding scale. But I have a minimum amount that I have to ask because I cannot do it for free. Those days are over. I mean,
Yeah.
also self care. I did the course, the studies, and but yeah. So, but the discovery call is more. I've done my fair share of therapy myself, and I don't know
Mhm.
how like if you ever had this, but if you then finally go into therapy and you pay money and then you don't click with the therapist, and then you get
Yeah.
demotivated, right? And then you don't want to
Hmm.
go in therapy anymore. So to make sure that that doesn't happen, I always offer a free session, and also for me to see if I can help you.
Yes. Right. And to see if you want to work with that person, if you click with them.
I've never had that. I had someone coming in and I went like, no, I don't want to work with this person.
Mhm.
No, never had that. I have had a few times where I had clients and I would tell them like, I think you need a break. You're okay to integrate for a while, or someone who actually just couldn't was too blocked.
Yeah.
That I've had as well. And then I asked, but then I would say like, why are you here? And they were like, to learn about compassion inquiry. I said, no, no, that's not what we're doing.
That's not what I do.
So that's what the discovery call is. It's more for the client, to be honest, to establish that trust because it's scary going into
Mhm.
therapy, especially online. It's
It
scary
sure
to
is.
lay your heart, and you have to be. It's so brave to do it. And so
Yeah.
I also tell them like, don't make a decision now. Do the call, and then take a day, integrate, and if you want to work with me, then. So they have because that was I would never know, and most people have no boundaries. They're like, yeah, yeah, I'll work with you. you
Yeah,
know
right. Let's
yeah.
get started. They don't know anything about it. Right, right.
They hang up and they go, shit, what did I do? There's no, so
Mhm.
no, that's the main reason for discovery call. But obviously, then I'll find out if they have work, if they, where they're living, what their situation is. So, yes.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, like what is the going rate for therapy like in Malta versus France versus like the Netherlands or for
Up
services like that you offer?
in Malta, you would charge €50 for an hour, which is $60 or something.
Yeah.
And then in the Netherlands, I don't have Dutch clients at the moment, but that would be somewhere 75.
Okay.
And then in the States, it can be anywhere between 80 and 150, 175, whatever. That's a sliding scale in the States. Dollars, not euros. So there's a big
Hmm.
difference. I never tell someone in Malta, so sliding scale 120. They'll be like,
Yeah.
must. So then I'm denying this person therapy.
Yeah.
And that I
So
can't.
interesting. Yeah.
Am I- Maybe that's my weakness.
It makes
I
sense though.
don't.
I mean, I think it makes sense. It's important to take into like account like different cultures and economic systems if you're going to be working all over the world with clients all over the world,
Yes,
you
I do
know?
think that's something to take into consideration. I have clients from all types of backgrounds: heavily addicted,
Hmm.
bipolar, CEOs, digital nomads, obviously, people just working in offices, mothers, many mothers as well, which is really nice. I also started, we're wrapping up an 8-week online group for women who just became mothers, which is also
Wow.
very, very nice. Yeah, yeah, that was so powerful. Yeah. But
Oh
yeah,
my
so
gosh.
so I have all these different clients, and I do feel I want to help them. So I also have to, take that in consideration. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And are your sessions, are they normally like an hour long
Yes.
session
Now,
or is there, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
no,
Oh, it's so interesting.
I never go over the hour because I've had clients that wants to continue. Let's do 2 hours, but it can be so intense on your system, and you need integration time. You know,
Yeah.
I'd
Yep.
never want to force the system. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What we do is quite somatic as well. We talk, and then we go into the body and feelings. And if someone is heavily traumatized and has never really sat with the feelings, they're going to have so much protective systems not to
Hmm.
feel, so they'll
Yeah.
dissociate. So there's no point in pushing. You can re-traumatize someone if you go too quick.
So true. Yeah. There's such a fine line there. And then
Yes.
being online, that's always a discussion too. It's like doing just like online sessions. A lot of therapists, myself included, I used to do really deep, deep, deep trauma work, but I decided when I went all online and digital nomad life that I wasn't going to take on that type of client anymore because it's just it's tough on me. And also, if something happens on the other side of the camera, I didn't know
Yeah.
how comfortable I would feel if they're like severely traumatized or dissociative or something like that, you
Yeah.
know?
I think what helps me is I did 2 years of weekly therapy with an IFS therapist, and I was one of those dissociating, disconnecting. Like I
Yeah.
was that person, so it worked for me, and that's what helped me to go online. Yes, but I have to say,
Yeah.
there's a signal. If there's something wrong, they can always message me between hours, obviously. So there's quite a backup
Nice.
system in that sense. But if they dissociate, I'll notice. We'll stop. We'll breathe together. Yeah,
Hmm.
but it's. I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's
Yeah.
whichever you prefer to do, obviously.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And
Which
just I think I just got kinda grew out of it. Like, I was like, "I don't
yeah,
wanna do the deep, deep work anymore." I'm, like, over it, I think.
don't forget, I've just been doing this for 3 years. So I'm just,
Right.
like
Exactly.
maybe in a few years I'll go like, oh my god, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
5 year you'll be like, "I'm done." Yeah, I
Yes,
think I think we all just kind of evolve differently with that stuff, but yeah, no right or wrong, of course, you know?
no, no.
Well, so how do people work with you? What's the process like? They go to your website, they sign up for the discovery call and then decide, y'all decide together what the process is gonna be?
I don't really have a blueprint of like what exactly I'm going to do, but so they come to my website and sign up, and then we have a discovery call. So I take notes and I have an idea of what's going on.
Uh-huh.
And for instance, if I have a client who is struggling with bipolar and is on many medication, and I will ask advice from people who are actually knowledgeable about medicine, because I'm not, obviously. Anyways, once we start, it's always the same. I start to get a feeling of how embodied they are. That's very important for the work that I
Mhm.
do. And then based on that, I will slowly, I always go to Tara Brach, which is, I don't know if you know Tara Brach.
I love
Which,
her, yeah. Uh-huh.
oh, and she has the rain practice. So I always slowly start to teach them in a way the rain practice. I can give homework, different depending on the client. I'm very, very more
Mhm.
spiritual, more into self discovery, but it's all about creating the awareness. So with some it goes very slow, with some it goes very, very quickly, depending on how embodied they are. So it's all about becoming aware of what's happening here, and for that we do practices together. So that's
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. So if anybody's listening to this and they wanna work with you, how would they find you?
I have a website, but obviously my name is very difficult. So RachelleMuschamp.com. And Instagram, Facebook, you can find me. But just through the website, you can just book a discovery call. That's it.
We'll put all the links down under too in case anybody wants to reach out and work with you. I think
Name is not the easiest.
so before we wrap up, I just wonder, is there any like tips or tricks or anything being like this kind of worldly person that you've been that you could give advice to any traveling therapists that might be listening, like how to navigate the whole thing or just any like final advice around that process and what it's been like and how somebody could make it easier on on themselves.
I think you need to have buckets of compassion for yourself. Very, very
Yeah.
important. Self care. So, like, I'm also always in therapy every once in a while, very important. But just really, really
Yeah.
always check in with yourself where you're coming from, where you are and what you need. Because otherwise, you're going to the fight and traveling and finding clients and doing social media and you skip the beat. So, compassion, compassion, compassion. So, you always go back to yourself. Very, very important. Have a practice, go into nature, do meditation, yoga, supervision, journaling, have a cup of cacao, whatever it is that you enjoy, or tea, or very nature. Be in nature between. That's like so important. Yeah, missing link, I think.
I love that. I think this is the message I need to hear today because I did a podcast interview right before this with somebody else and they had the same message.
Yes, no,
Nature,
nature.
nature, nature. Yeah.
Came back to France. That's why I went to Africa. I
Mhm.
spent like 12 days in the wilderness. It's like, and that's when I really realized, because I worked with a completely different group, and they help people with rites of passages. And I realized, like, yeah, you can go to therapy, but nature is such a beautiful holding space,
Mm.
right? That doesn't
Mhm.
judge you, that's there, like warm and loving and safe. So nature, like that's why I came here. I will walk into the forest, and it's so good for your nervous system. And I think
I
so
love
for
that.
everyone, your nervous system is so important. They have to take care of yourself, whatever that means. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Just
Hmm.
made me think of God, what's her name? EMDR, Francine Shapiro, and how she discovered EMDR walking through the forest with the light. It just made
Yeah.
me think of that when you said that.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that story.
Have you ever tried EMDR yourself?
Yeah, I'm trained in EMDR.
Wow. Good. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. That's my primary modality. When I was doing the deep trauma work, I'm not really doing that much anymore, but I still have a couple clients that we do a little bit of EMDR here and there, but
They're
I just
beautiful.
always remember that story when I started training, her walking through the forest in the light and how she realized it was calming her and helping her process and all of that.
The,
So,
what a beautiful divine message that is, right? You walk into the
mhm.
forest and like something bigger is like giving you the message what to do and see where it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Like I said before, to anybody listening, we're going to put all the information down in the show notes so you can follow Rachelle. Thank you for sharing your journey. I'm sure it's going to be super helpful to the listeners. So I really appreciate it.